Let's talk about The Sorcerer's House by Gene Wolfe. This is a 2010 novel by Wolfe. Fairly late then. He died 2019. His last book was published 2020. So this is late mid-career or something like that. And it's quite short, relatively. It's 300 pages. I'll read the blurb. In a contemporary town in the American Midwest where he has no connections, Bax, an educated man recently released from prison, is staying at a motel. He writes letters to his brother and to others, including a friend still in jail to whom he progressively reveals the intriguing pieces of a strange and fantastic narrative. When Bax meets a real estate agent who tells him he is, to his utter surprise, the heir to a huge old house in town, long empty, he moves in. He is immediately confronted by an array of supernatural creatures and events, and by love and danger. Bax's life is totally transformed, and we read on because we must know more. We revise our opinions of him and of others with each letter, piecing together more of the story as we continue. We learn things about magic, another world, and the sorcerer Mr. Black, who originally inhabited the house. And then, armed with the knowledge we find only at the end, perhaps we read it again. Yes, I enjoyed it very much. It's a strong Wolfe novel. There's both a lot to say about it, particularly if you're this is non-spoiler, but if you're going spoilers in, you can say quite a lot about things that are going on here. As with all Wolfe novels, there is the grand task and trial of working out how to explain it, in strict non-spoiler terms, when so much of what makes it fascinating is the investigation of the worlds he creates and the mysteries and the characters, that come through exploration and revelation in the book. This is a relatively open Wolfe book. We'll put it that way. It's a relatively open Wolfe book. It's epistolary, as I've said, as I've read. It's in the form of letters. I think there's 50 letters or something like that. Mostly from Bax, but sometimes from other characters too. And that sets up a classic Wolfe narrator thing where, he's trying to think about how does this narrator sound and how does he talk to different people? And it's through this gradual revelation where, we're getting some sort of logical order to events through the letters. We learn about what's happened, what people think has happened, what they're explaining has happened. And it's a very fun narrative of the discovery of a sort of think from what I understand, I've not read it, but Little Big, or thematically, other kind of big rambling house stories. I mean, though it's not emotionally very much like it, Gormenghast. Oh, there's this other area of the house. There's all strange place. There's also kind of these the fantastic realm that connects to the house, and the kind of the mysteries connected to the house. And this definitely, by the way, connects it to other Wolfe books. Books like Castleview came to mind, most obviously, but also and Pandora by Holly Hollander. In fact, I think for my fellow Wolfe fans, I would definitely see this as an interesting throwback to that 80s to mid to late 80s era, very early 90s perhaps, of urban fantasy. Live Free Live, I think, also has some things in common. It seems like Wolfe is casting back to this and doing something different with some of the material he wrote then. Castleview is the most obvious connection to this. Bax is a fascinating character, particularly as we get to see him talk to different people through the letters. And inside the letters, of course, we see him talk to different people inside the letters, but outside the letters, as it were, the letters themselves, he's talking to particularly his brother George, and his friend from prison, Shell, and the different ways he addresses them and talks about to them, which I recently talked about on Lupine Genomics, is a good indication of kind of things that are going on in Bax's head, the kind of person he is, the kind of way he's had to deal with situations. I think there's some interesting questions and mysteries to plug at. I think it is a book that rewards, and many of Wolfe's books do this, by the way, don't let anyone kind of mislead you. It rewards just reading it and enjoying it. I think it's a thoroughly enjoying romp It's very fun. The world is fun that's created. The story is fun. And there are some questions that you will raise as you go, particularly as you get to the end and as you come back to the start and as you kind of try to work out what's the kind of subtext here, what's the background, what is being missed in between letters, because we don't have a linear narrative. Bob got up, Bob went here, the next chapter, maybe from a different character's perspective, but so on and so forth. The idea that of a fairly linear third-person narrative, which may have gaps in it, but which we usually expect the author to kind of eventually tell us about in some way, even if it's only when the mystery is revealed, Poirot style. But here we have a different kind of problem, which is that we have a documentary history without editorial comment on the whole. Without Christopher Tolkien coming in and saying, by the way, this is connected to this. We are just reading these letters, mostly from Bax, and we are to make of them what we will, try to piece together the narrative in the right way. But yeah, it's, as I say, enormously fun. It's fairly approachable if you haven't read any Wolfe. I don't think this is the worst place to start. I'll make a video about this in terms of newcomers to Wolfe one day. But I think in terms of as a new to Wolfe person, there's a short list of books which get recommended, and this would definitely, for me, be one of them, because it's accessible, very readable, and you can just read it through and enjoy it. And then if you want to kind of play with some of the things that might be going on, you can. And if you just enjoyed the book, well, that's fine, isn't it? You don't have to. But anyway, that is my very brief set of thoughts on The Sorcerer's House. If you have read it, I'd love to hear what you think. You can tell me in the comments. Till next time.